Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This has been a long day for everybody, but a good one. Very profitable day for the Texas football program. My name is Ray Peters. You're watching On Texas Football, the YouTube live stream. We're also on podcasts. Millions of people listen to us. And so they love to listen.
Millions,
They,
millions.
they do. I saw your numbers there, Bobby. So Bobby Burton up here, CJ Vogel, Rod Babers. We're going to bring you some information here tonight about the Texas early signing day. It's been, like I said, a great one for Coach Steve Sarkisian and his Longhorns. And then we also have the possibility of adding a linebacker from deep East Texas over in Jasper, Tyanthony Smith. He announces in probably about 10 minutes or so. And Bobby, what do you want to say about what we've got going on tonight here on Texas Football? And specifically, let's chat about Tyanthony in a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start overall. Texas signs 22 players today. I believe that's right. 22. 21. Wait a minute. Timeout. Texas has signed 21 players today. They possibly can sign 22 if Tyanthony Smith comes aboard. As of right now, Texas has 15 of those that are early enrollees. Tyanthony Smith would be a 16th early enrollee. The Longhorns are currently ranked 5 in the on-3 consensus nationally with this recruiting class. Texas attempting really to become the first group in quite a while in Austin to go 3 consecutive years with top 5 recruiting classes as Longhorns prepare to play in the college football playoff on January 1st. Overall, it was a big day for Texas. Ryan Wingo was cause for concern at one point. The wide receiver out of St. Louis had not sent his letter of intent in. He did so around noon today. That was a big sigh of relief. And then everybody else had already gotten theirs in. And Texas also announced the signing of Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Houston, and Andrew Makuba, the defensive back out of Clemson. Those guys come aboard for the Longhorns. Also, other news, Dominic McKinley, a commitment to Texas A&M, did not sign today. D'Alen Evans, another defensive lineman from Longview, did not sign today. Alex Foster, a defensive lineman from Greenville, Mississippi, that visited Texas over the weekend, did not sign today. All 3 of those guys say they're taking their decision into the new year. Additionally, Steve Sarkisian stepped to the podium about 2 hours ago and told folks that he is still looking for another receiver potentially either in the portal or in the high school ranks. Also said that he's still hoping for a couple more players to finish up this recruiting class. We think he's talking about a young man named Tyanthony Smith as part of that. Tyanthony is the linebacker out of East Texas that Ray was talking about earlier, as well as Trey Moore, a portal prospect from UTSA that's down to both Texas and Alabama. That is a start to today's. that's what's going on. And I didn't even mention Aaron Hampton flipping from Texas to Alabama this afternoon. Here's Bevo Lorian. Tyanthony was waiting for Rod Babers' signed card to arrive via FedEx before he announces. If you missed that, Rod apparently didn't sign someone's rookie card of him that the person got for 49 cents off of eBay. It costs more to ship that thing, Rod.
Hey, 49 cents. Oh, it went up. It went up in value then.
I know, $14.50. I don't know.
If this worth 49 cents, it's doubled in value since last time I checked. So I'm all about it.
Rod, before we're going to try to carry Tyanthony Smith's stream live here, his announcement at 6:30. Before we get to that, you and CJ have been at it all day today. Rod, you were on the horn this morning. Then you came on with us this afternoon. CJ, you were on with us almost all day. Rod, I want to ask you and CJ both your major takeaways from today for the Longhorns. I'll start with you, Rod Babers.
Oh man, you know what? Honestly, that Jeff Banks interview still sticks out in my mind. It does, man. I because he was on Longhorn Network, and I keep looking for it. They have the Sark interview up there. They don't have the Jeff Banks interview, and they were doing some coverage. LHN does a good job. They got really good people there, and I'm just trying to paraphrase what Jeff Banks said, but he said essentially that we're looking for signs in recruiting. We're a talent acquisition period, right? We're talking about recruiting and the portal. It's all together. They're looking for signs. And he said if they don't see those signs, then they're not going to bring the player in. They're not going to pursue the player. And the signs he said they're looking for is signs of respect, respecting the game, respecting your teammates, respecting the locker room, respecting your coaches. And he kind of went on, and he basically said, if we don't see those signs, people may wonder, why isn't Texas pursuing this player? This player is, one of the best players at their position, one of the best players in the country, respectively their positions. He said, if we're not pursuing that player, it's probably because we don't see those signs. And he didn't go into detail because they went on to another question, but I'm assuming he's saying that doesn't make the player a bad player. Not at all. But it's like it's just like when trying to date somebody, right? It's been a long time since I've been in the dating world. So CJ, I don't know if you're single. I'm not sure your status about all that. The rest of us, it's been a while since we've been dating. But when we're dating somebody, you're looking for signs, right? Signs of compatibility, signs that we fit. All right. It ain't the hottest person you dated. That was the person that you married. All right. You probably dated hotter people than the person you married. I'm not saying, hey, don't tell my wife that. I'm the exception. My wife is the hottest person I ever dated. There you go.
Yeah.
But you get my point, right? It was about compatibility. Do you fit? Do we fit? Is our culture going to be good together? It's the same thing that they're looking for in recruiting. It is delicate. And when I heard him say that, it makes sense. These guys, I always said you are recruiting things you can't teach. So you can't teach character. That's something that comes from upbringing. That's something, and I think they're recruiting character too as a part of skill and of speed and all the other stuff too. I think that's part of it. That stands out. That's why they're being so selective.
CJ, what about you, bud? You were at the press conference this afternoon too. You were with us all day. You watched everything transpired this past year, covering recruiting across the entire year. What are your big takeaways from today for Texas?
I love Rod's point when he talks about, finding guys that fit what Texas is building right now, kind of the locker room and the culture and everything that we've talked about, almost every day for the last 2 years since Sarkisian took over the job. There's been a 180, complete flip in what it was under the previous regime to what it is today. And something that really stuck out to me from, Sarkisian's press conference about the on-field play of a lot of these guys is just the versatility. A lot of these guys played multiple positions. You look at kind of the balance at the running back position with Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibbs, and obviously Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingstone and Freddie Dubose, obviously three different kind of guys at the receiver room, all have, experience returning kicks and punts. Jordan Washington, a basketball background. We have, all sorts of positions filled on the offensive line with the three guys in the class. And then with the secondary specifically, and I think this is where we'll see it immediately, the 5 guys that Texas signed today, you talk about being able to mix and match and pull and swap and switch and do whatever you want to do with how these guys fit into this defensive back class and this room once they get on campus. That's exciting to me. And it's a testament to them for being coachable at the high school ranks. And it's also, a tip of the cap to the Texas recruiting staff to find these guys and to say, you know what, you project well, you play well on the field, but we see a bigger picture for you. And, we may not know where that might be right away, but because of how talented you are and the versatility that you have shown at the high school ranks, we'll find a spot for you and just basically trust us is what I'm getting at. So versatility was something that really stood out to me today. It was seemingly hit at every single position, with linebackers still on the table in terms of being filled up.
Some people are asking that they're saying it's 6:30. Where's the Tyanthony Smith announcement? So these things are usually, it can be multi people. I believe there are several athletes from Jasper High School who are announcing their destinations at this ceremony, and they can have some filibustering going on, people giving speeches and things. So things don't always start right on the dot. So once we get the information, we'll be sure to pass that along to you. Back to Coach Sarkisian's news conference earlier today, he mentioned the early enrollees, and we have 15 to 16 number currently, but he's got a good idea who's going to jump in the pool, because he said we could have 20 coming up starting in a couple of weeks. So you're going to have 20 new players enter the system on January 16th, I believe. That's a whole semester of work with your program. And just think back to last season, how those freshmen who came in early, how much they were able to contribute, and what a step ahead they gain by doing that. So that just bodes well for the future.
Ray, that is a great point, and I want to talk about how they got to 20. Okay, so first of all, they're at 15 currently. Tyanthony Smith would make it 16, and then Matthew Golden and Andrew Makuba would make it 18, because those early enrollees I'm talking about were just high schoolers.
Yeah.
Then you add potentially Trey Moore, that would make it 19, and then one other that we think might. From the sounds of it, sounds like a receiver, doesn't it, CJ? That would make it 20.
Wow.
So that's how you get to that number, Ray. And I think it's important to note that. And look, Sark is so far ahead of the game in recruiting, it's ridiculous. So, we could talk about, translation to the field and how big that was this year. It's part of him doing this that's making that transition to the field easier. The fact that he's going to have potentially 20 guys show up for spring practice out of a total of 26 new faces? That's ridiculous. Ron, I can see what you're talking about.
No, Ray, do you remember you were interviewing Kobe Black and you asked great questions. You asked a lot of great questions. And one of the questions you asked him was about, what he had seen this year for the Longhorns. And he remarked that he couldn't wait to play with the team. He's like, man, I can't wait to be there. I wanted to play with him when I was watching him. He said something, I'm paraphrasing, but you remember that remark?
Sure.
It feels like a lot of the guys they had the same attitude. Like, I want to get there right now. I'm trying to be a part of this as soon as possible. I want to be on that team. Bobby, right. You remarked players are the best recruiters. They're getting some guys who have, connections with players who are not on the team, played with them in high school, whether it be your Duncanvilles and stuff like that. And there were, Jaden Blue and Matthew Golden. See, like guys, they want to be a part of this because they've been told by people they trust who are former teammates and things of that. The guys they know, hey, man, there's something special happening. Y'all need to get here. It's going down. It's going down. It's happening. And that's what it feels like to me. With all these guys, this rush of players trying to get here early and be a part of what they think is a special I don't know. This got to be a special event happening at Texas right now. I'm just throwing. I don't know. It feels like that anyway.
No, I got you. And I look for signals or signs. And so I like to watch the Longhorn Network, the post-game show. I try to turn it over as soon as I can. And I watch, the celebration, the Eyes of Texas, things like that. And you can see the players buy-in on everything. They're just as happy as can be. And it's the young guys. I always keep bringing up the same kids. It's Jelani McDonald, it's Trey Wisner, Billy Walton. You see, they're always, I think they know how to get on camera because they always crowd around Coach Sarkisian because they always turn the camera on Sark when he does the hook 'em for the eyes, right? So these kids are clever. They get right there. It's just like Adonai Mitchell knows to go up and celebrate with Bert Auburn.
Yeah.
The camera's on Bert Auburn. So that way Adonai gets more, and plus he's a great teammate. I get it. I'm kidding a little bit. But yeah, those kids are buying it, even though they may only see the field because of special teams. So they're not sitting there sulking and saying, I'm a 4-star, 5-star. I should be playing right now, damn it. No, they're happy to be part of the team. They're bought in. They're running down on kickoffs. And even though most of them fly out of the end zone, they're getting their, uniforms dirty. So these kids are really buying in. So I'm just really encouraged by the body language I see with a lot of players. Right?
Yeah. The reports were Malik was upset. And he was honestly sad that he had to leave. Like he had to leave for his own opportunity so he can see the field. But the reports were that he hated making that decision, that he wanted to stay. He was having fun. That he loved his teammates. He loved being around them. More. That's why, and guys, in the NIL and transfer portal era, it's got to be. It's like being a parent. I always say being a parent. I'm one now. I always say, all right, gotta be tougher than ever in social media era, right? With influences on your kid that you can't anticipate, you can't really quantify. You don't know how they're going to affect your child, but it's part of life, right? Same thing with the NIL and the transfer portal. I think it's tougher than ever to have a good culture in college football. It's just tough. And really in college sports because the players have options. They can leave. They don't like what you're saying. And NIL throws money into the mix, and money and character and has always been a bad mix. We always know that, right? Money corrupts character to a certain extent. And yet Sark's been able to keep the culture really positive at Texas. And I think that's why he's so selective, guys. He knows how fragile it is. with the NIL and transfer, this thing could blow up at any time. It's hard to get a good culture these days. That's why I think he's like, nah, I got to have the right mix. Got to be the right mix these days.
Hey, Derek Wisner, who I believe is the uncle of Trey Wisner, put a comment in the chat at 6:37. Said, thank you for the kind words. He's going to relay the message to Trey. Derek, I know that's sometimes hard to post in that little box. If you want to, write us a couple of sentences. What does Trey tell you about the culture with Texas? If you're willing to share that with us, we'd love to have that, because we like to hear how the kids are adapting. And, here's a kid who was a star at Connolly and then moved up to DeSoto, where he wanted to get a little higher level of competition, won a state championship. Selfless player, moved from running back, where he thought he'd be the star, to slot receiver, where he continued to star and had a great championship game. Good kid. You can tell by the way he adjusted to those changes, and then has come down here again on special teams. So we'd love to hear what Trey has to say about his first year down in Austin. But Bobby, we had some Trey Moore questions here. I know you've been, trying to get some updates on there, but maybe not a whole lot's coming there. But can you give us any updates on the slot of the edge from UTSA?
Yeah, absolutely. So the latest is not much of a change. It's still Texas and Alabama. And as of 3:30, I do not believe he's really made a decision. I think he could have made one by now. It could be tomorrow. The only timetable yesterday I was given the timetable was yesterday. Today I said, well, what happened? And he goes, we don't know yet. And so it's going in that perpetual, it's basically swirling around, and you don't know which way it's going right now, is my personal opinion, having done this for 20, 30 years or whatever. When guys don't know, this is how it kind of perpetuates. Now it could be he, had dinner tonight and went home and said, okay, it's Texas or it's Alabama. I just know as of 3:30, I don't think it was that way. That's the update there. A lot of people are asking who is the wide receiver that Sark was talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to ask you, and I know Rod mentioned that too. We don't think it's Evan Stewart. We think Texas may talk to Evan Stewart, but I don't know that he's a fit, to Rod's point earlier. All right, so that's number one. Number two is we believe that it could be a receiver that's not even in the portal yet, that Texas doesn't know is in the portal yet. But look, there's going to be a exodus of players once these players get out of bowl games. Mm-hmm. So when they leave bowl games, they could go immediately into the portal, but they want to play in the bowl game, right?
Yep.
That is one of the things that's very possible. This is what happened with Adonai Mitchell last year, right? I mean, he wasn't automatic. He played through the national championship game. So I mean, remember that there are going to be some good players out there, and I will say this: Sark's patience is underrated. It's an underrated aspect of him, and being patient and finding the right receiver, if it happens 2 weeks later than everybody else wants it to happen, has paid off for him time and time again. He hasn't rushed. Like two years ago, he could have rushed to fill his offensive line class because he knew he needed numbers, guys. He didn't rush. He just stuck with his plan.
Yeah.
Sark as a recruiter and the patience he's shown, that's very, very difficult, because what do you do if you don't have the offensive lineman coming in?
Exactly. Right. That's a bold strategy.
That's like, okay, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I know I have a pair of jacks. That may have aces.
Totally. The Tyanthony Smith thing is kind of bold, right? It's like, now I'm recruiting you, only linebacker. If I don't get you, then we just don't get a linebacker. It's like, well, you need a linebacker. It's like, nope, we're rolling the dice on it. And hey, there was some talk that Mac did that a couple of times, like quarterback, like, hey man, only quarterback recruiting, did you that kind of thing? It's a roll the dice. It could blow up in your face. Sark believes in his methods. I'll just say that, his methods, and his methods all about relationships. Like, hey man, we always, the recruit to the whistle has become one of those terms thrown out there. Recruit to the whistle. That's what this staff is all about, and it pays off for them because they get flipmas, right? A lot of these guys to flip at the last minute, because Kelvin Banks is one of those guys. Like, nah, all right, you know what? You stayed loyal. I'm down with it. You know what? You've been down from the beginning, even though we disagreed, or I went to another school and decommitted. So I think Sark, his methods obviously are paying off right now, and he's doubling down on them.
Once again, we are waiting on Tyanthony Smith, a linebacker from Jasper, Texas. Matthew, I know that you made up a nice-looking graphic with some details on Tyanthony, his height and weight. If we have that available, I wouldn't mind you putting that up so we can get a look at some of the stats there. CJ, you're a guy who gets out and looks at these guys in person. Tell us a little bit about what Tyanthony Smith brings to a football team.
Yeah, big fan of Tyanthony Smith. Again, it's the recurring theme of versatility with a lot of these guys. Tyanthony Smith is no different at the linebacker position, obviously. Having played safety in 7-on-7, he has the experience in dropping back, reading route concepts, and being able to adjust to the football while it's in the air. But he's also playing in an area of Texas that really, really kind of embraces running the rock. And so he's been met with a lot of rushing offenses as well. It's good size. He will add weight, obviously. I think there is a development there, as most linebackers will undergo once they get to the college ranks, in terms of blitzing the quarterback and finding ways to get home. Obviously, the athleticism at Jasper is probably head and shoulders above what he normally is playing in that area, in the trenches specifically. So yeah, a lot to be excited about with Tyanthony Smith. And, with what we've seen from Texas linebackers over the last couple of years in terms of development and getting towards the ultimate goal of the NFL, it's no secret to think that he won't take that next step as well once he gets to campus, should he pick the Longhorns. That is something that Texas has pitched to him, is the recent success of developing linebackers. And obviously, it certainly helps when you're also being pitched as the only linebacker in the 2024 class.
I want to add something here.
Go ahead,
please do. Something here, Ray, if you don't mind. Sure. Tyanthony Smith fits what Texas is trying to do on defense. And I talked to Rod and CJ both about this. They're looking for more long-levered defenders in the SEC. And what that means is wingspan. Our friend Jerry Hamilton talks about it a lot, the importance of wingspan. Well, Tyanthony Smith, for a linebacker, large wingspan, even though he's 6'1". Zena at edge, long wingspan. Colin Simmons, even at 6'2.5", long wingspan for his size. Defensive backfield, Rod talked about this. All of those guys, long arms. And so that is something that Texas is looking for to build its team around in some ways, because they think that's the way of the future and way that they need to go into the SEC. They need longer levered defenders across the board. It's one of the reasons why I think they didn't really push for Xavier Atkins, a guy, if you watch him on film at Summer Creek, was absolutely explosive. He's committed to LSU. Good player, very good player, explosive player, but may not be as long levered as a Tyanthony Smith or Justin Williams. They also did it. Yeah, go for it.
Not to cut you off, but Tyanthony Smith is live on Instagram at the moment. He is in that process. Here we go.
Don't tell me what.
It is paused on my end as well, so this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A little suspense, if you will.
Is this happening at a church or the high school? Do you know?
His tweet said it was at a church.
At a church?
Yeah.
We'll go back to it as soon as it goes back live. It looks like Matt may have it live now.
Yeah, it looked like it was an issue on Tyanthony's side, or the filming side. So, well, here we go. This is fun. Get a live reaction.
Ever done one of these? Have y'all seen the video where the Florida State publisher is waiting for the results of the college football playoff? Uh-oh.
Oh, this is going to be real enticing in terms of the weight. I saw a comment that said this must be Aggie Wi-Fi.
Oh no. It reminds me of the old days back when before Bobby even started his first website, Real Player. You'd get
yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
Here we go. Does anybody know?
Yeah, there it is. Ashton.
Yeah.
Ashton, you came strong there, buddy.
There we go.
That looks like it's burnt orange to me.
It looks orange, and he's
it looks like a hook'em.
Oh, I see it. I see it. I see the fans. The fans throwing it up.
There we go.
Somebody said hook 'em.
It's unofficial, but you know,
It's not official till that signing.
that tweet goes off in Texas.
Hey, I got to be honest. Sark may be playing possum. That signing, that paperwork may already be in Austin, and he's just holding back
a little bit.
Nah, maybe. I've seen that happen before, where they don't announce somebody, but they hold the paperwork. I don't know if that's the case with Tyanthony, but a big one there. Boom, the Tyanthony Smith, 22 pledges now, 22 signees plus 2 guys in the portal for the University of Texas Longhorns. Tyanthony Smith commits to Texas, a linebacker, 6'1", 205 out of Jasper, Texas, long committed to Texas A&M, but the Aggie implosion continues to the benefit this time of the Texas Longhorns. CJ, you're talking about this. I don't know if we have the national rankings back up yet, if they've been calculated this quickly. I kind of doubt it, but we will see how that goes and what it means, et cetera, for the recruiting rankings. Texas had slipped to number 5 nationally behind Miami. Miami got a couple of big commitments today and moved up. Florida State moved down in the process. So did Florida and a number of other schools as well. But big one, guys. Any thoughts on this one, Rod? You've watched him a little bit. What do you see other than those long levers I talked about with Tyanthony Smith at Jasper?
Yeah, I know it does. He's one of those guys really athletic. He can run. I mean, and I love what CJ said about watching him in 7-on-7, that he's a guy that played safety in 7-on-7, because I do believe, I talked about prioritizing coverage. I think I think that's the case at linebacker too. I mean, the truth is you're dealing with a spread era of football. Even in the SEC, you're dealing with a lot of teams that want to throw the football. Fewer and fewer power run teams that you're dealing with on a game-to-game basis in college football. Your linebackers, they used to be, kind of run defender first linebackers, guys who were kind of run centric, built to stop the run, and then the pass secondary. Now I think it's the opposite. Now the linebackers that are built to operate in space, to defend the pass, and then you can turn them into, you can coach them how to take on blocks with the right leverage. You can coach them with how to, take the right angles to the football. You can coach them into being better run defenders, as long as they're not scared of physicality and as long as they're not afraid to engage. That's why DeMarvion Overshown translated well, right? It was like, well, we're turning a safety into a linebacker. It's some growing pains there, but at least he's not afraid of contact. So at least he'll go in there and he's enthusiastic about hitting somebody. It may not always be the right technique or fundamentals, but he'll do it. And honestly, I think that's what you may get with this young man as well, translating.
Read that, Rod Babers. Read that and make yourself feel good.
Oh, Texas going in the right direction with a culture coming behind it. I'm joining the troops. Thank you, UT Brock. I mean, you're seeing these quotes, right? You'll see. Yeah. I'll get the quote from Phil Samee, because his quote it kind of blew my mind when I saw it earlier today, and I was like, wow. And this was when he committed, so it wasn't today, but it was when he committed initially, not the signing. He said, Texas is going to get all the top guys. Kids in Texas want to go play for UT, and that's why I chose them. And I don't know, like I said, it feels like Texas is becoming the it school again. I was here last time Texas wasn't the it school, and then it had to, set the standard again and reinvent the program. And Mac did it in 99 when I came. He was in the midst of doing it. And I remember all the little details that Mac was really emphasizing about the program. Like one of the little details that y'all would think is stupid, but mattered to Mac, was switching from Reebok to Nike. And he was like, nah, we got to go to Nike, man. He kept telling the recruits, like, hey, guys, we're going to be Nike. Don't worry about that Reebok stuff. Because he knew to a 17-year-old kid, it's stupid, but Nike mattered. Because Nike was cool, and cool is currency in recruiting. So Mac was cool back then. Now Mac is still cool, but he's a grandfather now. He's still cool. But Mac came from Carolina, where he knew what the Nike brand could do. And he knew the influence of it. He's like, nah, guys, we Nike. So the young guys like, yeah, Nike. Guys, I sat down with Anthony Hill, and I was like, hey, we asked him, what do you, Third and Longhorns, great podcast, go check it out. Asked him what you like about Sark, man. And one of the first things he mentioned was, man, his shoes are awesome. Got them great kids. Cool, man. His shoe game is off the chain. It's because it's cool. Cool is we ain't cool no more. We old. CJ's cool because CJ's young. But Bobby, right? We ain't cool no more. We cool. And by the way, when you're old,
I can put my hood up.
Cool. Right? So, but my point is, Mac knew I got to take Texas from being uncool to being cool again. And Ricky, what really was basically he was the conduit. Ricky allowed Mac to make Texas cool again because he gave you the rebel with a cause. Then Mac thought about the details, like Nike getting Sims, a celebrity quarterback, always helps. Sark got his celebrity quarterback in Arch Manning. You get a celebrity endorsement. Hey, everybody's being on celebrity endorsements. Look on your television. Everywhere you look, there's a celebrity endorsing some damn product that you don't even know what the hell it is. You're like, hey, but I recognize her. I recognize Jennifer Aniston, but I don't know what the product is. I don't care. All right, but that's the whole thing. A celebrity endorsement also holds true in football. And when the Mannings gave Sark celebrity endorsement, I think it had one of the similar effects to when Sims switched from Tennessee. By the way, y'all don't even remember this because y'all not old enough. At one point, at the beginning of the internet, CJ, all right, beginning of the internet era, you would type in to the search engine UT and Tennessee would come up. Tennessee, not Texas, Tennessee. Now, if you type it in, of course, Texas comes up because Texas is the prominent brand when it comes to UT. You don't think about Tennessee. My point is, when you flip the celebrity quarterback in '99, Sims from Tennessee. All right, where Manning had just attended there, and they won a national title. Not with the Manning, but they won a national title, and they had the Manning brand associated with it. Mac flipped him, and he also flipped the cool with it, and made Texas kind of the it brand, but along with Ricky Williams and switching the knife. Mac thought about those details. My point is this: Sark's thinking about those details. He's really into the details about guys he's bringing into the culture, how the culture is perceived, all of these little things. And it's making a difference into turning Texas into being the it school again. And I remember when it was here last time, and it became the it school again. And when VY was the apex, right? He was the zenith of it, where he's on the stage, Austin, Texas, baby, national title. Everybody's like, damn, that's the coolest program in the country right now. I'm not saying we're there yet, but you're ascending. You're ascending.
Sure.
I got this is maybe the best question of all, the whole chat. Ski Brett, what is Reebok? That statement right there, big guys.
Rod,
I know he said it tongue in cheek, but it's so true.
No, Rod hurt his toes. You hurt your toes wearing Reeboks, Rod, didn't you?
Oh man, I had so many toenails fall off wearing Reebok. It was terrible football cleats. But Mac knew, man. Mac knew, hey, as long as we're gonna be Nike, we'll be good. And like I said, I seen a coach thinking about the details in the program that relate to the culture, that relate to the perception, the brand. D. Kara did that, dog. D. Kara was the one that came up with a lot of the stuff that, is tradition now, because he was thinking about the details. And when you got a coach that can be a CEO, play caller with Sark too, but also he's a personnel man. He wants to have his fingers in everything. Even Mac wasn't doing that. Mac was great. Mac was unbelievable. Mac still is Hall of Fame coach, but he wasn't play calling. He wasn't dipping, his hands into everything. Seems like Sark wants to be in all that. He wants to be in all of it, just a little bit. And it's honestly, it's really impressive. It's extremely impressive considering this is his best coaching job that he's done, and it's because he's got the BBs in the box, back in the box, as Mac would say.
Yep. Hey, I want to ask y'all a question. What does this do to the Texas recruiting class on defense? It connects it's a linebacker group now that has at least one guy. They've got 3 guys up front in the middle. They got 2 edges. They got 5 DBs. Pretty strong defensive recruiting class on the side of the ball where they definitely needed to replenish some guys. CJ, what do you think about the Texas defensive recruiting class right now?
Yeah, I'm definitely of the mindset that regardless of your situation or your approach to the portal, you want to take a guy from the high school ranks at each position, each cycle. I think that is the way you sustain depth, and I think that's the way that you continually have someone in the room that you can potentially develop into being a contributor. And I look back to the last years of Tom Herman, when Texas had to move linebackers over to be running backs because there's 2 scholarship guys at the position. That affects your team in more ways than one when you look into a room and you see 3 chairs, where it's just it creates a mindset that when things go wrong, you're looking around, you're like, well, maybe if we had another running back, or maybe if we had a linebacker that could tackle in the flats rather than the converted safety or corner, it helps bring together we've got a guy. It's one of my favorite comedy skits is Shane Gillis recently, and he's talking about Alabama. He's big, and he goes, I never want to be a high school coach, but if I did want to be a high school coach, it's so I could walk out at midfield after games and just say, we got guys. And I think about that in recruiting because that's what it is. It's the accumulation of getting talented prospects to buy into your program and eventually go turn into dogs on the field. And that's what Texas is doing at each position that we can now check off a box with Tyanthony Smith committing for the linebacker position. It also, like as I mentioned, continually bringing in younger guys is only going to help sharpen the iron that is already in place on campus at the moment as well. And we talked about, the 4 or 5 guys that Texas is already having on campus from the 2023 cycle. Adding another body to that mix is only going to have them looking over their shoulder saying, you know what, this kid's pretty good. He can cover pretty well. He's not afraid to blitz. He can tackle at the line of scrimmage. I need to up my game. It's the continual wheel of development and production on the field that we only see as a result of taking high school guys at each position, in my opinion.
Hey, Rod, I have something. Go ahead, Ray.
I was just reminding folks what they're watching because we're nearing the top of the hour here. That's the old radio guy. I wasn't really a radio guy, but I've heard radio guys say that. Rod is a radio guy, though. You do top of the hour, right? On Texas football, the live stream, there are some significant logos that Matthew put on the screen.
This is what I wanted to bring up.
Right?
I asked Matt to bring this up exactly for Rod because this is what he's talking about when he talks about how Texas is. Look at that. I mean, those are very powerful logos, right? ESPN is number 1 in sports. Nike's number 1 in apparel. SEC is the number 1 conference. Texas is the number 1 brand in college sports, and they're all aligned right now.
That's a great point, Bobby. And maybe the Sark, and now actually Sark, it's not all Sark because it's Jay Hartzell. Shout out to Jay Hartzell. I'm a big fan of his too. I'm a big fan of Kevin L. Type, right? You got the Holy Trinity behind the scenes that's working really well together. But Mac's big Nike push, to have the brand associated with another elite, cool brand is kind of Texas' push to go to the SEC in a sense. It's like, hey, no. Texas needs to up its standard and association. Right? They talk about brand association and sales all the time, right? Brand association. Texas wants his brand association, not with the Big 12 anymore, with the SEC. The best football conference in the history of college football. Done. Period. That's where we're going. Now there are guys who are choosing Texas. That's part of their evaluation. Oh, no, they're playing in the SEC. And by the way, once again, that used to be one of the things they would negatively recruit against Texas, right? That was one of them. They're playing the Big 12. Scrubs. The NFL scouts don't like Big 12 film. They always talk about Big 12. Ain't no defense played in the Big 12. So, no, I'm saying that was one of the negative. I talked to a lot of coaches. That was one of the points. You walk in the living room and you're recruiting against Texas. Oh, man, they play in the Big 12. That's some weak football. So, whether it's true or not, that's a perception, right? Oh, Texas, they don't develop talent. You go there and you see what Garrett Wilson said. You go there as a 5-star. Now, you're probably going to come out as a 3-star under development. They don't. Look at the guys that got drafted. They don't have a lot of guys drafted. You can't negatively recruit that again because they're going to have like 6-7 guys this year. All right. They're playing in the SEC next year. Toughest brand of football you can play in. And on top of that, competing for championships in the college football playoff. All of the things that coaches would walk into a living room and go, young man, you're really choosing Texas? They don't compete for titles. They underachieve as a program. They don't develop talent really well. Coaching turnover all over the place. All right. And they're playing the Big 12 scrub version of football. You can't mention any of that. You got to change your sales pitch against Texas now. Last 15 years, that's been, that, Bobby, that's been talking points. Every recruiter goes out. Hey, just so you know. And by the way, coaches got numbers on Texas hit rates on 5-stars. And how low they are compared to Alabama or Georgia. They got that on them when they walk in the living room, man. They got it. They got how many draft picks they have compared to Texas. They got that on them saying, dude, we doubled the amount of draft picks they got. You ain't got none of that now to sell against Texas, man. I don't know how the hell you recruit against them now. I don't. You got to pay more money. And how you going to do that when Texas got BMDs all over the place that are excited now? I don't know what you do.
Hey, this one from Trooper Green. How many years did Texas recruit paper 5 stars and get field and locker room 3 stars? T Sweat was a 3-star, right? This is a great and articulate comment there. I love that kind of thought process because end of the day, it's about winning. And none of this gets talked. None of this happens without Texas winning. But Sark had put the pieces in place to make that a reality and make that a possibility, and that's why he gets. Not a pat on the back. I mean, what's that worth for me? But that's how I'm, thinking about it. I mean, that's why I'm excited about where it's at. Hey, this one is another comment here. Kevin Jones, Chip Kelly says he thinks there should be 2 to 3 year contracts with players and collective bargaining with players who want to be paid in order to keep them from hitting the portal whenever they want. Agree or disagree? I mean, that's one structure. Here's what I would say to that. Is Chip Kelly a player's coach? Or is Chip Kelly one of those guys that kind of gets down on his kids a little bit and maybe, look, if you're a player's coach, you're gaining more than you're losing in the portal. That's reality. In through the portal and or through high school recruiting, you're gaining more than you're losing.
Yeah, control only helps management, guys. They want control. It's like the NFL. The NFL wants control. They want contracts. So you gotta be here. And there are stipulations in this contract that usually help management. This freedom and flexibility, I think it helps the worker. And it helps labor. And that's the players. Because they can move around. And NCAA has already said, guys, I don't know if y'all been paying attention, they are not going to penalize guys for multiple transfers. They don't want to go to court. Because the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, has already told them, we think you are a corrupt entity. We think you're a borderline criminal syndicate. And if anybody brings us a case, we will rule against you. They've already pretty much said that. So they don't want litigation at all. So they've already said you can now transfer multiple times without penalty. They're not gonna police it. Guys, that's free agency. That's it. We've been watching it already, but now it's happening. So yeah, the players right now in this agreement, they're the ones who are winning. They can get paid multiple times. Dylan Gabriel just transferred again. I mean, you got guys that can get paid like 2-3 times in college, man. I'm so upset because I was born way too early. Could have got paid like 3-4 times. Just joking. I'd have been a Longhorn, but still, my point is, you get.
Good point. Hey, thanks to Kevin Jones for that super chat. And by the way, there is something here called a super chat, and you're welcome to participate, and we hope you do. And you can just kind of click on that little money icon there, and we'll move your question to the top and get it answered here on Texas Football on this Wednesday night live stream, the special edition talking about recruiting and the signees today. It's been a very big day, a very good day for the University of Texas. Again, if you missed it, about 10-15 minutes ago, Tyanthony Smith, linebacker from Jasper, did commit to the University of Texas. Presumably, his paperwork is in because they've been sending out the tweets, and so you can't do that without it being official. So that's another bit of great news there. Speaking of super chats, Mark VQZ has one too, and he reminds us about Dylan Gabriel's old school, Oklahoma. Of course, he sent this a while back. What is it now? About 7:05. 7:06, and you get it.
You know what? I will say this. I want to say this because not everybody on this chat went to Texas or what have you. That's a saying that when I was living at Texas in the dorm, somebody just randomly would say it's 7:33, and then the 8 people in the dorm that were walking to class next to me would say, and OU still sucks. So if you haven't experienced that yet, that's what that's in reference to. It's a thing that has been going on since the dawn of time. I think a little healthy fun. There,
I went to college back in the dawn of time, and we did it back then.
Exactly.
It unites generations of Longhorn fans. You can do it from a guy that's from the 60s and the 70s with a group from the 2010s, and they would still all say the same thing, like you said. And OU still sucks. It's a beautiful thing. It unites us all. Yeah.
Hey, Matthew, I don't know how do we have graphics made up of some of the players? I don't know. Bobby, would you like to discuss just a few of the
I tell you what. Let me do this. Let me do this, Ray. I'm going to ask Rod a couple of questions, or ask CJ a couple of questions about specific players, and I'm going to just kind of bring them up and make y'all go kind of ad hoc, because this one I think is one of Rod's favorite guys. So I'm going to let him start here. Xavier Filsaime, the speedy safety that flipped from Florida to Texas on Monday, that started that just a crazy Monday for all Texas fans, with 3 commitments from 3 different categories: a high school flip from Florida, a portal guy from Clemson, as well as a 2025 commitment in Brandon Brown, or excuse me, Amory Winston, the tight end out of Calhoun, Georgia.
I love him. I mean, I really not obviously love him like that, but as a skill set, I love his skill set. I should say that he really does. And my man CJ brought this up too. The speed jumps off the film when you watch him. I mean, he's electric in terms of his speed, closing speed, and coverage speed. He's got the coverage speed to be able to cover guys from the slot. And I think that's something Sark even said today. He said all the DBs that we have in this class have size, they have length. So to your point, Bobby, what you brought up earlier, length, and what I've talked about, prioritizing coverage, because you can't coach coverage. You got to recruit it. He says the ability to play man coverage, whether it's safety, star, or corner. So I think he's talking about, obviously, Filsaime in that group, because he can cover. And I think the coaches have finally figured out, you know what, we can't coach or develop that. Let's recruit that. But we trust our development in all other aspects of the game. And one thing also I love about him is his elite closing speed. Now, that's different. Like coverage speed and closing speed are different. There's also catch-up speed. When DBs are beaten, some guys have better catch-up speed. When I say closing speed, I mean closing in on your target. Right. Once you identify the target, the ball carrier, being able to close, all right, that gap, whatever it may be, and do it and do it in a really, really that efficient amount of time. And he does that really well. And he does it from distance. And you can see it even on the film. Texas plays, I'll say, top 10 rate, all right, in the Power 5 quarters coverage. In the last 2 years, it's a heavy Gary Patterson influence. That was his antidote to the Big 12. He loved a lot of quarters coverage, match quarters, some traditional quarters coverage. That's just simply cover 4 when you got 4 deep defenders. When you got 4 deep defenders, your safeties have to be force run defenders. I always say you can only have, you got so many guys in the box, but you can have however many guys you want in the fit. Just because you got 6 guys in the box to defend the run doesn't mean there's just 6 guys in the run fit. You got 8, 9 guys in the run fit. That's where those deep safeties come in. And you can have a guy like Xavier Filsaime and Derek Williams playing from depth. You even saw Derek Williams do it a few times this year and close on running the alley down to become a force run defender. And you do that by being able to know where the ball is going to pop. I've heard Michael Griffin talk about this, canceling gaps. Great safeties will cancel gaps. You trust that your defenders are going to take away certain gaps based on the front that you're playing. And when they cancel those gaps, if everybody's taking care of their responsibilities as a safety, you should be able to accurately predict where the ball's going to pop. All right, because you know exactly where the other force run defenders are. You know who's going to force the run inside. You know who's who's two gapping, whatever it may be. And if you know, and that's what football IQ comes into play. If you know what your other defenders are doing, you can run the alley and predict exactly and have a precise beeline to the football and have a precise angle to the football and know exactly where the ball's going to pop. Jalen Catalon was the best at this on the roster. He was amazing at it. Just can't stay healthy. I called him Alley Catalon. All right. He was great at it. But now you got some young DBs who also can be force run defenders. So you can play with a light box initially and you can deter deep vertical routes with the alignment of your safeties. Just being deep, they can still come down a beeline and be a force run defender. Essentially giving them 2 roles to play, but giving you extra defenders on the field because of their skill set and their elite closing speed.
All right, CJ, I'm going to ask you. That's one of the reasons why, because I can tell by how animated Rod gets when he talks about people, how much he likes them a little bit. And so, I knew that would evoke that response, and I think this one will evoke a similar one to CJ. And that's Parker Livingstone, young man out of Lovejoy High School, 6'3", 190-pound wide receiver that was injured most of his senior year. Not the highest rated guy, but he's someone Sark and his staff identified early and stuck on all the way through, CJ.
Yeah, that was absolutely one of the it's actually a funny story. Sarkisian mentioned in his press conference today, he went and saw Lovejoy play Melissa last year. He was in attendance with Kyle Flood. I was actually at that game as well. And so it was fun to kind of see, the two of them on the sideline kind of conversing back and forth with one another. Obviously, Kyle Parker was on the field. Nigel Smith, Jackson Ford, who ended up at Tulsa after a stint in the Oregon class. There were a lot of ball players on the field in that game. And, this was really when Texas was starting to become a player for Parker Livingstone. And, it's funny because, shortly after that season, Brennan Marion moves on to be the offensive coordinator at UNLV. And, what did he coach at Texas? Wide receivers. Well, who was the first to text me about Parker or about, a potential, fit at that Texas wide receiver spot? It was Parker Livingstone. He's sitting around. He's like, hey, man, what do you know? Do you think, we're going to find out who this guy is? Do I need to reach out to him? Are they going to know who I am? Is Sark, going to have a spot for me? I'm like, listen, take a breath. This happens. Wait for Sarkisian to announce his guy and then get in contact with him once again, because there's a reason why Texas was into Parker Livingstone. There's a reason why Sarkisian was at his game to watch him in person and really be involved in his recruitment. And that's because there's high hopes for him. And, I've mentioned it before, but very rarely do you see guys that are 6'3", 6'4", in that height range that are able to return kicks and punts so fluidly. Here's the clip I actually took week 1 this season whenever he was fully healthy. This is against College Station, a team that is 2 years removed from the state playoffs. I mean, it's just guys that height shouldn't be able to move that fluidly in terms of the stop and go and left and right. It was impressive. That was probably his 4th touchdown of the game. You can see up at the top, they have 43 points on the board. I was a huge fan, huge believer of Parker Livingstone. That was after he threw for a touchdown. He received 2, and then to put icing on the cake and put a 50 burger on the board for his team week 1, he does that. So a big time believer in him. I know that nagging kind of foot injury that he dealt with later in the season kind of derailed the spike in recruiting rankings that, many people were hoping for, especially on the Texas side of things. So that's unfortunate. But again, when you get this kid fully healthy and you kind of get the entire, box of tools that he brings with him to the 40 acres, he's going to be a special player. And I trust that Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson will find a meaningful role for him while he's on campus here.
Nice.
All right. Got a couple more questions here that I want to address. Mike Gosnell asking, how many more recruits can Texas take in this cycle? We initially said 21 to 23 on the high school side. They're at 22 now. I think they could push up to 24 if they need to. Yep. I still think they're going to take at least one high school defensive lineman in addition to where they're at right now. Those prospects that I believe that they're in on now, D'Alen Evans out of Longview, who delayed his decision today, has been committed to A&M. He will now wait until February. Alex Foster out of Greenville, Mississippi. He visited Texas over the weekend. He will now wait until February as well. He's committed to Baylor. Dominic McKinley has begun a 5-star out of Lafayette, has been committed to Texas A&M for months. He's now going to wait until February as well. Texas in on all 3 of those guys. There could also be a high school wide receiver in that mix. And I think they'll just be opportunistic, Mike, for that 24 spot if they find the right guy. This one from George Lopez. Who are y'all most excited about on each side of the ball? Hook 'em horns. Ray Peters, it's time for you to answer one of these questions, big guy. Who's your favorite recruit on offense and defense?
Oh, wow. That's good.
Ray, did you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think my Wi-Fi was crapping out there. I apologize. So I did see George's question. I also see another one that focuses on me, which I'm afraid of here in a few minutes. But
hey, no,
George,
I want to know. We're asking you, who's your favorite offensive and defensive player in this class?
Well, the easy answer is Colin Simmons, because I just I know that we need the guy that can be on the edge and can dip his shoulder and go get the quarterback. So I think that you've got 3 important players on a football field: the quarterback, the guy that protects the quarterback's blind side, and the guy that can go get the quarterback. So I'm really excited that we've got Colin on that side right there. Wingo, I want to see if he's really going to be able to bring the speed that he professes to have, or that the track times say. Was he 10.6, something like that, at 200 plus pounds? So that's kind of a difference maker. So if you can have the big guy who can haul it like that, I would assume that his yards after catch would be pretty nice. So I'm really excited to see what Ryan can do on a football field.
Rod, what about you, bud? Your two favorites, offense and defense.
That's good. Man, it's hard not to go DB because there's so many of them, right? I would like to go again, with another position on defense, but I feel like I'm obligated to do it because there's 5 DBs in this class coming in. I'm gonna go with my favorite DB. Damn it! And then I'm gonna be redundant because I think I'm gonna go Xavier Filsaime. So I just went off about Xavier Filsaime, so I'm not gonna do that. Let's put him to the side. Can I go with Makuba? Is that against? Yes. Is that
that's not really high school, but look, you can do whatever you want. This is our show, Rod. You can do whatever you want.
You know what? Then I'll go Kobe Black. It's easy. There's so many good ones in this class. I'm good. I'll go Kobe Black because Kobe Black is a shutdown corner. He even talked about it and Ray got a chance to speak to him, that they've been pitching him as a boundary corner, right? Basically taking Ryan Watts' spot. This is a guy that's got all the raw tools, man. I think he can be a ball hawk too. I usually put defenders in 3 categories: ball hawk, technician, or disruptor. He's a technician because I think he really can be a guy that can replicate the same high-level technique over and over again, which is what you need to do if you're going to play press over and over again, and also be a ball hawk. I think he's a guy that played offense. I think his ball skills could easily translate to playing press corner there. I do think he's a guy that could have the same track as a Malik Muhammad, where, by mid-season, he's in the rotation of corners there. And maybe by the end of the season, he's getting even more valuable reps. And hell, by the next season, he's a guy that projected to be competing for a starting spot or be a starter for you. I think he projects to be the same kind of developmental track.
Got it. What about you, CJ? Offense, defense.
I'm sticking with Brandon Baker. I love him.
Good one.
And I really liked what Sarkisian said about him today. When you think about tackle prospects and Brandon Baker, he said, basically he looks like he was built in the lab to play, right or left tackle. And I love that because it shows the physicality that is necessary, but also the footwork and the ability to move laterally when you're pass rushing against these speed guys off the edge. I love that comment from Steve Sarkisian. And he even doubled down and said, when we watched his film, it felt like it was Kelvin Banks all over again.
That's wild.
We've seen how good he's been. So that's exciting for me. Defensively, I might be stealing yours here, Bobby, but I really like Dontre Robinson, out of Florida. And we've talked a lot about him, and just, we see the raw film. We see what his body's looking like right now, but the production screams off the tape. When he gets his body right and he loses a little bit of that baby fat and replaces that with, what Torrey Becton and his staff are gonna, kind of build him up with, I'm thinking you're looking at a guy that has an incredibly high ceiling that can certainly cause a lot of havoc on the interior and just create a mess for interior offensive linemen each Saturday that he is on the field. I think he is a true wrecking ball in the middle right there. And I mean, we've seen how important it is to have interior guys that can really, flip the switch and become a game breaker, turn back to NFL street. But I think he certainly falls into that category.
Yep. It's interesting. I'm going to go maybe somebody that everybody doesn't realize that I might go with. I'm going with Christian Clark on offense.
I knew that. I could have predicted that. You've been talking about him for months.
He's my guy. We'll see. I hope I'm not wrong, but I just feel like he's got a little something special to him. I will say this, Rod or Ray, you mentioned the speed on Ryan Wingo. He has a wind-dated 10.50 as a personal best, but he has a wind legal 10.55. So he's pretty fast. At 6'2" or 6'3", whatever he came in at. All right, a couple more questions. We're about done here with tonight's last live stream of the night. Appreciate you guys joining us. These two from Invincible. Anybody not named Quinn coming back next year? JT Sanders? ? And then also, is there a chance we flip McKinley? And this is for Annex. We mentioned that the possibility is there for Dominic McKinley. We're going to wait until February. Texas may get another unofficial visit for Dominic McKinley. Steve Sarkisian saved his in-home visit for this very possibility, too. Don't forget that. Some people went ahead and used theirs. Sark saved his. As far as players coming back next year, right. CJ, I would love to hear what you've heard. I've heard JT Sanders is 75-25 going. There are other names out there, though, like Adonai Mitchell. We believe he's probably going pro whenever he starts seeing the amount of money he could make in the late first round of the NFL draft, or even in the second. We've heard other names as possibilities. David Benda, Jake Majors, we believe is coming back. But there are some others out there that we just don't know. Have you heard anybody else in that regard from your vantage point, CJ?
Yeah, I made my argument to Rod last night about Tavion Sanders coming back. I think there is more on the table for him to kind of improve his stock. But guys that I've really circled and kind of are really intrigued to see where he will go, because I don't think the draft grades will be all too favorable, is Ryan Watts. He's a guy that converted from safety to cornerback. He's played that boundary spot for Texas the last 2 seasons. And there's kind of been, I don't want to say inconsistencies, but there's been times where, a guy's gotten behind him and allowed a big play. And for guys that have been on that cusp of draft eligibility at the cornerback spot, that's not necessarily the recipe that you want to put on tape and hope that your draft stock will improve. We saw it with Deshaun Jameson coming into his final year. There were some times where the athleticism just didn't quite translate to good plays on the field. And as a result, he's now an undrafted free agent, despite continually making plays in the NFL when given the opportunity his rookie season. So I think you're kind of following the same path right here. If you're Ryan Watts, I'm not sure if a return is in the books, if, a possible portal. I don't know. But it's something I'm going to closely monitor, because I don't think right now that the draft grades will be something that will lead him to jump right into the draft right away after the season.
I would add this on that. What if somebody, this would be a big one, what if somebody like Jalen Ford decided to come back? That might be big for that defense. Rod Babers likes that idea.
It's a good. The reason that it's actually a good discussion to have is because linebacker in the NFL right now is not a premium position unless you're a Micah Parsons, you're a movable chess piece, right? Anthony Hill may be there when he becomes a prospect, because you can move him around, put him on the edge of the pass rush. Now Jalen Ford has done that, but he's basically known as being kind of one of the best, if not the best, coverage linebacker in college football. And if he's not going to be, basically a high draft pick in the NFL, which I don't think necessarily will be, just because linebacker, unless you're spectacular, right? You're winning national awards, you're not necessarily going to be considered a high draft pick. You'll be second to, mid-round draft pick. You could come back, make a lot of money in NIL space, and still get the same value you did when you got to the NFL. Now, if you're worried about injuries, that would be obviously something to consider, but he hasn't been injury prone at all, really. I don't think he's missed a game.
Yeah. I'm just throwing a guy out there that is probably not going to be a second round pick.
No,
would probably be 4th or 5th round based on the fact that he plays linebacker, even though he's really, really good. Anyways, I just put it out there.
Bobby, I think forward, it's almost unfortunate. I wanted to add just real quick. It's almost unfortunate he had the season he had in 2022, because had he been draft eligible and ready to depart, that stock would have been, the season that he had last year was incredible, with the turnovers, the interceptions, ultimately being in the conversation, being the runner-up for the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not saying he regressed, but the statistical money stats just weren't there. And that's no fault of his own, because a lot of that is turnover luck, which is its own conversation. But that, it was a tough year to follow up with, for Jalen Ford. So that's a good point. And, that it's a fun conversation,
It is. I hope it happens.
All right, guys. I got to say this. It's time, Ray Peters, for you to do this this next one justice. And we're going to leave y'all with this. It's It's going to be the last one of signing day. It's in honor of the great Tyanthony Smith, who just chose to be a Longhorn during our show. Scooter Lannister, Ray Peters, please stand up and hit that cue ball on the pool table behind you. The whole chat needs it. Ray, I know you'll do it not for Scooter Lannister, not for the chat, but you know who for? For Tyanthony Smith, bud.
For Tyanthony Smif.
Can we
You
do
gotta
this?
do it,
Like,
man.
this is like throwing out a first pitch, right? If you screw it up, you're marked forever. What if I just said that was a virtual background behind me, and then people, pretty good.
That'd be a great virtual background.
Well, and
Oh,
it's a good thing I'm wearing shorts tonight because I usually just do this bare ass naked. No, don't worry. That's Rod. Rod's my Wednesday partner. Don't worry, that's not true. But if it were true, then I would be the one getting all the manscaped reads moving forward.
That's it, brother.
You gotta be the man while I do this, all right?
All right, here we
Putting the
go.
ball.
He's
I want
gonna do
stripes.
it.
Let him
Oh,
know.
He's doing it.
He's doing it.
Look at Ray
Okay,
Peters.
I'm okay. You got to make sure it's a good one. You got a good break, man. Don't make it a bad break. Now the pressure is on.
I'm gonna
Pressure
the ball's
is
gonna hit
on.
the screen.
Don't scratch. I agree.
Yeah,
Oh,
get
here
him.
we go.
A little
Oh, here
warm
we
up
go.
there. You had to warm
Pressure's
up
on.
the arm.
Ah!
Oh no!
There we go.
Oh,
I did.
All
I
right.
haven't played here. I haven't played pool in months because the pool table used to be my desk for the computer.
That was great.
That's hilarious.
I
All
love
All
right.
right, I knew
Guys.
I'd do that. I knew I'd do that. Now I'm on the internet forever.
Now they got the video forever, Ray. It's there forever. Love it.
Gee.
Scratch right off.
That's all right.
Hey, thank y'all for joining us. In all
That's great.
seriousness, it's been a wonderful year for the Longhorns. Longhorns finished with 22 commitments, 2 portal transfers as of tonight. Texas in the top 5 in national recruiting rankings yet again, 3rd year in a row. It ends tonight with Tyanthony Smith flipping from Texas A&M to Texas, a young man from Jasper. We congratulate him. Hook 'em, Tyanthony. Congratulations. But this has been a long day. CJ, thank you for being with us all day. Ray, thanks for stepping up the plate. Rod,
Great
you're
job.
always the man here,
Thank
bud,
you,
on
brother.
Texas football. For our producer, Matt Hutchison, I'm Bobby Burton. And guys, hook 'em. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Welcome. Appreciate it.